Gentlemen, welcome back to the mess, which is my desk. And this video is a special one because in front of me we have a series of flight controllers. Now, the purpose of this video is we are going to go on a little journey. And right now, everybody else's focus is on quadcopters. Now, they are really good fun, but for me personally, I am having so much fun with fixed wing planes and flying wings that I only got my quadcopter out to hunt for the Wing Z84, which I converted to an FPV flying wing, which we lost the other day. Now, that flying wing did not have a return to home feature available on it. So this journey which we're going on is that we are going to hunt and track down an autopilot which has return to home features, and this is the reason why I'm making this video series. Now, there's a couple of things which I'm looking for specifically. Number one, that we have flight stabilization for flying wings. Now, I am going to be using a Sumo, more on the platform, the Sumo platform in a few minutes time, but whatever we do with the flying wing, just assume that you can do the same for a normal fixed wing aeroplane, so a glider or another aircraft of you choosing. If it's got an elevator and rudder, it will do it for that as well. Now, ideally, the board of our choice or the board of our own finding will have return to home and loiter features, aka autopilot. It also needs to be as low cost as possible. Also, it would be nice if we had on-screen display features, so when we've got the goggles on our faces, we can actually see what's going on. So we'll have like the horizon, where our home is, GPS quads and things like that. And it would be a big bonus if waypoints were supported. So that's the overview to what we're going on in this journey. And in front of us, we've got a collection of boards available to us. The first one, or the first two, I'm actually going to rule out very quickly. The reason being, you may have seen my earlier video where I was taking you through the settings for a Naze32 board using Cleanflight, GPS, and you'll also see on here I've got a little OLED screen and a little buzzer set up for that. And my findings were that the Naze32 with Cleanflight, while it gave absolutely outstanding rock solid stabilization, the return to home features just didn't work. What basically happens, in fact, if you can imagine that this little box here is a flying wing, is that when I enabled loiter mode or return to home, one of two things happened. It either put the nose down and went full throttle at the ground, or, and by the way, I've never seen this, and everybody who else I've spoken to, they've never seen anybody prop hang a flying wing. The Sumo literally sat there in the sky like that, rock solid, and it stayed there for several minutes. It was an amazing feat. And then the more research which I did is that I found that Cleanflight and the Naze32 board, while it sports or shows that you can have stabilization features and maybe return to home with Cleanflight, my findings were that that is just a failed avenue to go down. It just doesn't work. So if you just want stabilization for your model aircraft, whether that be a flying wing or a fixed wing plane, then Cleanflight. If you've got a spare Naze32 board, even the cheaper 6 DOF boards, yeah, you could use that for your fixed wing aircraft. So we're going to put that one to one side. The other option, while we're on the topic of stabilizers, and I'm going to pop a screenshot up on your screen right now off Hobbyballs, is a orange 3-axis RX3S version 2 stabilizer. I'm going to see if I put that on the camera for you. These things are absolutely brilliant. So if you just want stabilization, these are brilliant. I used to have 4, because the other one was in the Wing Z84, which we lost the other day. So I've only got 3 of these, and they are absolutely brilliant. So if you just want stabilization, you could either use a Naze32 board, which has been set up for a flying wing or a fixed wing, or you could use one of these. Both of these options are very good. Oh, the one bit which I missed out is the pass-through mode, the mode where you can click into so that all of your inputs are going straight through to the actual model itself, isn't very good. It is kind of jerky. So if you're going to use a Naze32 board, you'll want one of the modes enabled by default, whether that be rate, which is no mode selected, angle or horizon. You'll want one of those modes enabled rather than just pass through. So if you just want stabilization, either of those 2 options. But in this instance, they are not applicable. So I'm going to put those to one side. Now what we're going to look at is 2 other options. One is a much older version and one is a much newer version. So they are both going to be based off the Naze32 board, or I call them Naze. So you may hear that me using those terms interchangeably. Naze, Naze, to me they both mean the same thing. So in front of us we've got a Naze32 board. Now this board weighs absolutely nothing. So let me just go and get the scales out, which will make it a kind of like a good choice for a smaller model. So without any of the components on there which have been soldered on, it weighs the whole of 8 grams. Okay, so a tiny diddy little board. And the first route which we're going to go down is some software created by PatrikE. Okay, so I'll put the link to the FPV forums post underneath this video for you. And it's using an older technology, so it's going to be using the Baseflight configurator, which the Cleanflight configurator was loosely based upon. The cost for this board is about £20 UK, and we also need a GPS module. I've gone for the Cirrus, a Nero 6 GPS board. I've already been pre-programmed both my GPS modules to be using U-blocks, and they're ready to rock. So that's route number 1. Route number 2 is also going to be a Naze32 board, but this time with iNav, which you may be able to see up on my screen in front of you. iNav is based upon Cleanflight, and it's much newer than PatrikE's Baseflight Airplane version. Now, the bit which has got piqued my interest here is that iNav actually supports waypoints. So that's a really cool little feature which we can pre-program points for our model to fly to. So imagine your flying field, and you could set up the first point, which is here. You could then get it to fly to the opposite corner, then the other corner, then the back left-hand corner, and then come back to the start position, for example. So iNav looks really, really curious because of the advanced features we've got available to us. But just remember, that is a bonus if we get waypoints. What we're really looking forward is flight stabilization and return to home with loiter features, and ideally some on-screen display features as well. Now, when it comes to the Naze32 board, we will need a GPS module. Again, I mentioned this cost around £20, so we need one of those. So up until now, that's costing us about £40. We will also need some extra goodies. If we want the on-screen display, we'll either need a Mavlink OSD board. Again, if you've flown quadcopters, you've probably got one of these kicking around. Either the larger version like that, or maybe a mini, tiny little diddy version like that. Now, these are a couple of quid. We'll just say about £5 off eBalls. So we'll need those. Also, just for my ease of use, I've also got an OLED screen spare. We can use this with iNav, but we cannot use it with Baseflight to the best of my knowledge. I like using the OLED screen because I can see visually on the screen that the device is armed, which is great because if I've got this on top of a model or on the side of a model, when I get to it, I know what its GPS status is, and I can see what condition the actual model is in. Also, for convenience, I've got an HC06 Bluetooth module, which is really, really important because this means that I will be able to configure, and ultimately you'll be able to configure your model at the flying site using Bluetooth and your mobile phone. So those are just a couple of quid, OLED's a couple of quid, and the on-screen display is a couple of quid. So we'll call that about a tenner. So the Naze32 board plus GPS plus a couple of extra goodies is coming in about 50 quid, which for me, and hopefully you too, is affordable. The other option which we've got, and it literally arrived in the post today, is a Pixhawk. Now let me just go and open this one up, because I haven't even opened this up either. So, ooh, cool. We've got, by the looks of it, a current sensor, and I'm assuming that's a power lead for the main unit. Let's open that. Oh, there's the Pixhawk. So the downside, there's two negatives, which I'd say for the Pixhawk. Let me get that out of the bag. So number one is size. Look at the size of the Pixhawk compared to the Naze32. Don't forget, on top of that, we also need the GPS module, which I hope is in this bag. Some cables. There's the GPS module. So the Pixhawk plus the GPS module is pretty damn big once she comes out. So we need that and that on there, whereas the Naze32 is that size on there, and the Naze32 plus the GPS is this pretty much the same size, is just the Pixhawk board itself. The other thing is that the Pixhawk for me is already in my bad books, and the reason for that is that version number there, 2.4.8. The reason being is that if you go onto eBay or other sites, you'll see an earlier version of 2.4.6. What actually happened, and again, this is my personal opinion, whether this is true or not, the developers, when they created this board, only set this board up to have 1 meg of memory. Of course, developers being developers then went on and used 90% of that 1 meg, or over 90% of that 1 meg of memory, leaving only 100 kilobytes for your settings and details to be saved. That 1 meg gets used up with the software which goes on here. It causes issues with your USB connector and your connection, which basically means you're kind of forced in to upgrade into a newer version like this one, 2.4.8, which has 2 megs of onboard memory. Okay, so like I said, this one's already in my bad books, and also this option is not cheap in comparison to the Naze32 plus the standalone GPS module, because that came to about 50 quid. The Pixhawk cost me £82.88 from a seller in the UK. Obviously, you can get them cheaper from outside. And I still then need to go on and add an on-screen display. So we've got 3 options there, or 3 valid options. The last option, which, look, if you just want a flight controller which is going to work out of the box, is super simple to get going, has an on-screen display which is fully customizable, then you want to go for the Eagle Tree Vector. Now, I've been and got one of these, and I'll put a screenshot up on the screen for you. This is my current setup in my FX61 Zeta Phantom, and it works absolutely brilliantly. I am super impressed. Now, you must be wondering, what's the downside? The downside is that the Eagle Tree Vector, it costs £175. Now, if you're in the US, we're talking $250. If I had a choice and I had unlimited funds, I would personally buy the Eagle Tree Vector every single time, and I wouldn't be going down this route. However, I'm not made of money, but I am willing to go and explore some options. So that's the journey which we're going to go on. Now, before we go any further, to keep all the tests, and by the way, I won't be testing the Eagle Tree Vector because I can pretty much guarantee you it's going to work whatever model you put it in, and it's going to work brilliantly, okay? So I'm going to that one's not going to be part of these tests. We're looking at the inexpensive solution. So I'm going to put that to one side. Now we need a common platform for us to test this on. And the best platform which I can think of is a Sumo, which is kind of handy because I've got a spare one in my office. So we have a Sumo here. Fantastic flying wing. I'm sure you've seen me chucking these around on my YouTube channel. I was going to put a little diddly Turnigy D2830 1000 kV motor on there, but then in my stash I found another Turnigy D3536 1450, and again you can see it's brand new because I've still got the covering on it. Brand new 1450 kV motor, which is the best motor for the Sumo. So we're going to be using this motor with probably a 9x6 prop and a 3S battery. Again, I'm just going to try and keep all the whole model exactly the same. We're only going to be changing over the autopilot each time. So we'll have either the Pixhawk loaded up on here, which will be that way round, if I get it that way round like that, or the Naze32 board on there. For the battery, we're going to go with a Turnigy A-Spec battery. And the receiver for all of these, we are going to be using the, I've got one to hand in my previous setup. We're going to be using the FreeSky D4R2 receiver. And that reminds me, is that this is where things get complicated, and this is why I'm so excited to be doing this little mini-series for you, is because when it comes to iNav, because they've been crammed so much onto a tiny little board, is that they're getting memory issues or getting very close to the capacity of the Naze32. Because they've got so close, they've been trimmed down on other features. One of those features is the FreeSky telemetry. So for me to go and use iNav, by the looks of it, I've got to go and compile my own version of iNav and enable the FreeSky telemetry. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt. But this is why I like the idea of doing this series, is because I will know at the end whether using the Naze32 and PatrikE's Baseflight Airplane software will work or not with the GPS return to home feature, or we'll use a Naze32 plus iNav and again a GPS module, whether that combination works the best, or whether the Pixhawk is a viable option, even though it costs more. And again, we still need to add OSD features on there. So these are the three contenders. The previous two, just using Cleanflight and the Naze32, just don't do it. It just doesn't work. None of the GPS features work when it comes to a fixed wing model. If you just want stabilization, like I said, go for one of these orange stabilizers. They are super cheap, like £14, and they work brilliantly. And if money is no object, go for the Eagletree Vector. Yes, it costs 3 times as much, but you'll be in the air at least 6 times faster than going down this route. So with that said, if you have any comments, any experience setting up... Whoa! the Sumo almost knocked me out. So if you have any comments, any experience of using any of these devices, so whether it's the Pixhawk or the Naze32 with PatrikE's Baseflight Airplane software, or maybe even iNav, please let me know in the comments underneath this video, because I'm going into this with just sheer brute force. If you've got any tips or any suggestions, please let me know in the comments box underneath this video. And also, if you're just interested, please let me know which part you're interested in, because what I'm aiming to do with this mini-series is take everything which I've learned across these 3 different boards and then share it with you over on YouTube. Now, what I will do at the very end, once I've been and got a system which I am personally very happy with, and I'd fly one of my models with, I'll do another mini-series and I'll show you how to do everything step by step. So your feedback is absolutely key for this mini-series, hitting the nail on the head, not only for me, but also for you too. So with that said, for myself, Matt, thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you soon. Cheerios!